I'm going to show you the magician's favourite trick.
Mm-hmm.
It is the magician's favourite trick. It is so secret we even do it with an invisible pack of cards. You're not going to believe this. This is sensational. Place your finger in there.
Me?
Yes.
You?
Yes, that's rather firmly anchored to your wrist.
You? I don't want my finger in there.
All the way in.
Is that blade sharp?
Right. 1,
No!
2, 3. I'll tell you a good idea. Hold on to the finger with the other hand. It's circus day on Rainbow today. I got some performing animals. He's the first.
Wow.
Right? Now, you noticed he's on the left-hand side trapeze.
Yep.
Okay? I place him behind my back, and he actually swings over to the right-hand side trapeze. Isn't it a good trick?
During the next hour, we'll be paying tribute to an extraordinary entertainer. You might not know his name, but I have no doubt you've seen, read, or heard some of his work. His name is Clifford Warne.
Now put that in your bill, get a good grip on it, and don't let go, right?
Right.
Did you understand the instructions?
Sorry.
And so you should be. Now, it's simple enough. All you do is put the rope in your bill, grab on tight, and don't let go, right?
Right.
Clifford had the ability to make a lot of funny moments in quite serious times, actually. I think that was part of the skill of keeping the whole team working well together, was never take anything too seriously, even when disaster was falling all around your ears.
Duffer,
Right.
take hold of that rope, put it in your bill. And that's the way you ought to stay for the rest of the show.
Someone asked him once whether God had a sense of humour, and Clifford did a brilliant look at each of the students, long pause, and after another long pause said, I think he's got a terrific sense of humour.
That is Janine. Would you like to give Janine a kiss?
Would Janine like to give Ricky a kiss? I don't think
He's
so.
very, very shy. Very, very shy. Ricky, give Janine a kiss. Oh, did you like that? You'd like another one, please.
That's
Not
it for
getting
one
any
day.
more.
I remember Clifford talking about puppets, and then he took all the puppets away and actually just brought his hand out and started talking. with the,
Simon!
What?
I think this is a G-rated show. You can't do that.
What are you talking about?
That's... It's disgusting. It's naked.
Waffle, I'm just talking about that. He pulled his hand out of the puppet and started talking.
But it's
And
naked.
it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And it was before I was doing much puppetry. And I thought that this guy can just make a hand come to life and talk.
Clifford was full of jokes. I think he invented Dad's jokes. He was the king of puns. He would always come out with very funny one-liners. He'd give you 2 seconds to respond, and if you didn't respond quick enough, he'd say, 2 seconds up, too slow.
You know the sort of woman that enters a room voice first. American woman walked up to the Chinese ambassador and said, "And what kind of knees are you? Chinese, Japanese, or Javanese?" The Chinese ambassador answered in impeccable English, "Madam, I'm Chinese." "And what kind of key are you? Yankee, donkey, or monkey?"
One lovely memory I have of Clifford is when he and I were, I'll say, performing together. He was speaking and doing magic. I was singing, I think, at a church function at Linfield. And I'm sure it was part of his regular routine, but it came across as a bit of an off-the-cuff moment when he was doing some trick with handkerchiefs and, you know, pulling them out of palms of his hands and so on. And some child said, "You're using your sleeve." And he said, "My mother always said that when you've got a hanky, never use your sleeve."
I'm going to cover the bottle so that you cannot see through the cover into the bottle. And here is a silk handkerchief. Are you paying attention?
I'm paying attention.
You're paying attention. If I take hold of the silk handkerchief, I'm going to cause it to transfer into the bottle. Good trick? And it has arrived. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that's good, but can he get it out of the bottle back into his hand again? So, watch this. And how's about that? Isn't that a great trick?
It's truly pathetic.
Pathetic. Would you like me to explain to you how to do it?
Well, yeah, it'd be good actually.
It would? Well, you go like that, and it comes back in the bottle.
Clifford was many things to many people. To some he was a magician. To some he was a puppeteer. To some he was a television producer. After the break, we'll find out how Clifford turned potential bad news into the foundation for a brilliant career.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a secret. The secret is this. My mother had a rare and wonderful gift. She could foretell the future. What do you think of that?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Mother was very good at this. I would come home, I would show her my report card, and she'd tell me exactly what was going to happen an hour later when my father got home.
Clifford was born on November 24th, 1930. His father was Cantonese and his mother was of Scottish descent. He was brought up in a troubled household. As a result, his parents divorced when he entered high school. Since neither of them could take care of Clifford and his brothers, the boys moved in with their Cantonese grandparents. Although Clifford was dux of his primary school, he struggled in high school.
I went on to fourth year at Sydney Boys High School, and I wasn't doing too well in fourth year. The only subject I could get top marks in was English, and I was absolutely mad about being an entertainer. So I studied drama and Shakespeare and stories and all those things that would equip me for what I wanted to do, but I paid little or no attention to the other subjects. So Jasper Killip, who was the headmaster at that time, said, "You're wasting my time and I'm wasting your time. I've seen what you do in the entertainment field. Go out and do it." When I was your age and I went to do the groceries for Mum and get them down the shop, I had trouble reading the list. She'd give me a list. There's the list for you. Would you like to hold up the list for us? Hold it in that hand so you can read it too. And I had to learn a magic way of learning to spell. Now, here are all the things that you get when you go down the shop. When you went down to the shop, what did you go for?
Toffees.
When you went down the shop for your mother, what did you buy?
I bought toffees.
I'm sorry we brought you. Right. I learned to do this magically. Now, these are my magic cards. If I take my magic wand and wave it over the top, you... Please don't laugh. They're very serious cards because they teach you to spell. Now, I wave a magic card around. What is funny about a picture of sugar? What? It doesn't go all floppy. Look, look, look. Well, it's magic. You watch. Let's spell the first one. This is how you learn to spell groceries. J-A-M spells jam. Right. What's the next one, please? Eggs. Eggs. You know what eggs are, don't you? Hen's fruit. Now, here we go. E-G-G. You didn't know there was a G-G in the middle of eggs, did you? S, and that spells eggs. What's the next one? Would you spell butter for us, please?
B-U-T-T-E-R spells toffees.
In the early days, me and a range of other puppets performed in a number of variety shows. He may have had all the funny lines, but I was the one with all the brains.
Hey, Trevor.
Yes, Wally?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Stan.
Stan who?
Stand back, I'm going to sneeze.
Oh, bless you, bless you.
During this time, Clifford started to work and perform with a range of talented people. Among them was a sketch artist.
As Jesus went out along the road, an official came running to him and knelt before him. "Good teacher," he asked him, "what good work must I do to get everlasting life?"
After the break, we'll find out who owns the talented hand.
Suddenly a strong wind blew down on the lake, and the boat began to fill with water, so that they were all in great danger. The disciples went to Jesus and woke him up, saying, "Master, Master, we are about to die." Jesus got up and gave an order to the wind and to the stormy water. They quieted down.
So who was the man behind the lightning-fast hand? His name is Graham Wade.
I first met Clifford, well, it was a long, long time ago. 1946, I think, 45, 46, and we were part of the Youth Variety Show. The Youth Variety Show was a company of kids, stars of radio. You've heard them on the radio, now see them in person. And he was a compere. And so I was telling these dreadful, corny jokes and doing sketches appropriately, and he was doing these polished jokes, and these others, which were various musicians and singers and all sorts of stuff, boys, there we went, and there we performed. Very successfully, I might say. It was, as the poster says, 2 and 5 pence for adults, 1 and 2 pence for children, and we pay tax.
Graham and Clifford's friendship would stretch the span of a lifetime. In later years, Graham would present segments called Scribbly's Yarns for Clifford's national children's program, Sing Me a Rainbow.
We're all familiar with the image of the Australian bushman, Clancy of the Overflow, Harry Dale the drover, the man from Snowy River, all of them fine horsemen mounted on fine horses, thundering across the paddocks. That's the romantic view. But you know, most of our bushies rode push bikes. Gentle, old push bikes.
Together they were good, but it took a third man to make the team great. Clifford and Paul White worked on a range of stories, from the Jungle Doctor fables to farmyard capers and strange stories from the Bible.
Boohoo waddled close and peered into the looking glass. Boohoo's expression suddenly changed.
Oh, what's that?
What's what?
That big fat face in the mirror.
That's you.
I beg your pardon. That's not funny.
Well, you're the first one who ever thought so.
I was illustrating Paul's books, and Clifford was coming in as the performer side of it. We then got together with the puppets, and Paul dreamed of sharing the gospel with people. And so he collected his blokes worth watching, as he called them, his BW, whatever it is, BWWs, blokes worth watching, and Clifford and I were obviously BWWs.
Paul did a lot of trying out on Clifford, and in fact no book was ever printed before they'd been tried out on individuals like Clifford and on an audience. Where Clifford came in was in the production of various other forms of the fables. So in the 1970s it was film strips with soundtracks, and Clifford would help produce the soundtracks and get the actors together and that type of thing. So really that was how they worked together on the the audio as well as the visual.
Well, I was the star of the Jungle Doctor fables. It's not hard to see why. I have personality.
I don't know whether Toto the monkey was Clifford. Certainly when they did the soundtracks, Clifford always played Toto the monkey, and perhaps he was well cast because Toto the monkey was mischievous, a bit of an imp.
At the time, Clifford didn't realise that Paul White would very soon send him on his own worldwide adventure that would prepare him for a radical new form of entertainment.
In the 1950s, Paul knew that television was coming, and he knew that Clifford had all sorts of gifts that could be developed. And so Clifford was getting married, and he paid for him, as well as going to Africa and to England, he paid for him to go to America to look at television.
I remember when we got to New York, Clifford and I got spotted by a talent scout. we were asked to audition for a variety show on NBC. Clifford walked into the executive's room, sat down, and the executive drew the cigar away from his mouth and asked, "So, what can you do that's so different?" Clifford pulled me out of the bag and we started to do a routine together. And that's how I got Clifford the job.
This is my friend Toto the monkey.
Yeah?
And Toto is going to sing you a song.
No, I'm not.
What do you mean, no, you're not?
I can't.
Why can't you sing a song?
I got toothache.
You've got toothache?
Yeah.
But aren't you lucky you met me?
Why?
Because I'm studying to be a dentist.
You're?
Yes. Now, I'll be opening your mouth, I'll be finding the tooth, I'll be pulling it out, and I'll be a dentist.
You know what I'll be?
What will you be?
I'll be seeing you.
No, come here.
Take your hands off me. Take your hands off me.
When Clifford returned to Australia, television arrived with him. Since Clifford had worked in America on NBC and in Canada on CBC, he was one of a few performers with television experience. He quickly got a job performing on Channel 7's children's program, The What's a Name Show. This was just the beginning of his television career. After the break, we take a look at the diverse range of programs he produced and appeared on.
Hello. Today I'm going to show you a sensational trick.
Good.
My father used to like to do a trick with a cork of a bottle.
Yes.
You take the cork of the bottle and say, how high can I throw it? I'd say, to the roof. And you go, pshoo, disappear, and you go, and bring it out of his nose, you see?
Disgusting.
But a sensational trick. You know, if you take a bag, the air will hold it up.
Oh, okay.
Would you hold the other windbag, thank you? Now, next is the bottle. You waiting? Good. The famous Chinese vanishing bottle trick.
Oh,
I say the magic word, chu chin chow, and you'd never believe it, but the bottle has disappeared. And I made the magic word, chow chin chu, and you'd never believe that the bottle is back again. Isn't that terrific?
That's a ridiculous trick.
What do you mean it's a ridiculous trick? Weren't you impressed?
No, 'cause it was there
Oh,
all
well,
the time.
it wasn't there all the time.
It was.
Well, if you're going to be like that, I'm not going to do any more magic or do something else then.
As well as appearing on television, Clifford began the Church of England Television Society during 1957.
I think Clifford was obviously one of the pioneers of Christian television in the country. He's made some fabulous documentaries, the documentaries that we made in Israel, and just the local programming that he did for Christian television.
We'd go through a script together and he'd say, that's very good. Then he'd take out his pen and go through it again, and he would say, now, if thou wouldst be perfect, and he'd pick up a few little things, assuring you this is only nitpicking. But as you heard what he had to say, you realise that, in actual fact, he'd seen a whole lot of things that, well, he'd be very kind and say, if you'd had another couple of weeks to look at this, you would have seen these for yourself. But that precision with words and getting the script right was what I learned from him.
During the next 30 years, Clifford produced and directed a range of television programs, from children's shows to documentaries to dramas.
I have asked Jesus to forgive me everything wrong that I've done. I promise to do as he tells me. And Jesus says, do good to your enemies. Forgive them as I forgive you.
" 3,000 years ago, King David chose Jerusalem to be the Jewish capital, the holiest place of prayer in the Jewish world.
Clifford was very methodical. He always loved people to get to the airport early. For what reason, I don't know, but I think it was my very first assignment with Clifford overseas, so I was ready to impress and get there early. But in the endeavouring to get all my family in the car, ready to ready to go to the airport, I actually left the camera behind. And I didn't realise that till I actually got to the airport. And to this day, I still didn't know how I told Clifford. But I do remember his face when I told him, and he was gobsmacked. He just didn't know what to say, and nor did I, for that matter. But I think a few silent prayers may have been answered because the flight was delayed for 3 hours, which gave a neighbour time to break in and pick up the camera.
It was very interesting when he was dealing with people. He was very gentle, very gentle. And I think because of his Chinese background, he never, ever, ever wanted people to lose face. One of his favourite words was gracious, and he was always, always very gracious. And I think we all learnt from that too.
Hi, Duffer.
Hi, Trevor.
What's on the show today?
Well, I am going to recite a poem.
Recite a poem?
Yeah.
What is it?
In my first year working with Clifford, we produced a 6-month pilot program. It was the first time that Clifford had ever produced a half-hour children's program. He'd always done longer adult programs. And that was at Channel 10, and it was a lot of fun, and it incorporated music and stories and puppets and so on. The next year, we decided to continue the format, and Clifford changed the title to Sing Me a Rainbow, and that began the run of Sing Me a Rainbow then. That was, I think, 1981.
Let's meet and greet our two favourite funny people, Rags and Flossie.
Clifford would have never guessed that the series would run over 15 years and be broadcast in South Africa, England, Great Britain, the Middle East and India. It featured documentaries, magic, stories and songs.
Long, long ago in ancient Babylon lived good old Daniel who would not do wrong.
I think I never spent time with Clifford when I didn't come away and think, I need to do everything I do that little bit better, and so everything's a bit clearer, a bit sharper, a bit more polished, and therefore a bit more effective, because in the end that was what he was on about, effective communication.
Let's follow Jesus, who taught us to care. Let's change the world with Christ our Lord, who taught us to care.
We did introduce segments, sang together, you know, I did tricks, etc. with Clifford and...
Tried not to look too stupid.
Thanks very much.
Well, it was going to be fun to be fooled by Clifford, but the wrong bits and pieces arrived at the first trick. I'm sorry about that. The thing was called Gone.
Well, that's pretty useful.
And it said that you were supposed to take hold of a cardboard tube. You can see through the cardboard tube.
Yeah, yeah.
The cardboard tube is to cover the bottle. And as you can see, that doesn't cover the bottle, does it?
Yeah.
And not even the handkerchief covers the bottle. So there it is, and you're supposed to take it off and the thing had disappeared. Well, hold on the hanky.
Yeah, okay.
Wave goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Yes, and it's supposed to be gone, just like that.
Clifford also encouraged other magicians to perform on the show. Among them was a man with quick hands and a quick wit, Steve Walker.
Tell you what, how about if we push that in there?
Yeah.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? Now we can make all the different colour jokes. We'll try it one more time. Let's put that over the top, okay? Give it a little bit longer. I think that's enough. Yeah? Enough time? Oh yes, this is looking much better now. Look at this. Look at that. Look. All the colours of the rainbow. There's red, there's lime. It looks like banana. And this must be blueberry.
Blueberry.
And it's time to say cheers until we see you again.
Cheers.
There's a routine we were doing with Ed, who was a puppet that Clifford was working slightly off camera. And we were doing an old music hall routine, or it's based on an old music hall routine, where the straight man makes a bet of $20 and the comedian has to answer the same answer every time. We never practiced it beforehand. I just assumed that he'd know it. And it was just so funny. I don't know how we ever edited it and finally got it to air, because it did go to air.
Okay, now all you've got to do is I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Yeah.
And you've got to answer the 3 of spades.
3 of spades, I know that.
Right,
Three
you
of
ready?
spades. Yes.
No. You were supposed, that was the first question. Are you ready? You were supposed to say the 3 of spades. You said no.
Wait on, Walker.
No, so you lost, you see, you lost it.
You tricked me. I wasn't ready.
I'll give you another chance.
All right, go on. Won't catch me this time.
Are you ready?
Yes.
I did catch you that time. You're supposed to say the 3 of spades.
sorry. We'll start again. Start again from that point, right?
I say, are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yes.
No, you're supposed to.
Would you like to test those knots to see that they are firmly tied on the tape? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sure are.
All right. Would you like to tug on those and make sure that they don't come off? That's great. Did you work in a dairy? Right. The power of the human mind. I want you to concentrate on one of the colours. Which colour are you going to concentrate on?
You want me to tell you?
Yes.
Blue.
Blue. All right, concentrate on the blue.
Okay.
And I want you to imagine in your mind that it is untying itself. Did you like that?
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
I didn't know Stuart could do that.
Would you like to do another?
Yeah, I'll give it another go.
Which colour are you going for this time?
Yellow.
You're going for yellow.
Yep.
Now concentrate and see if you can imagine the thing undoing itself.
Clifford was criticised by many in the church. I remember one day, after we'd done a performance, a woman came up to Clifford and said, "Magic is deception, and deception is the tool of the devil." Clifford looked at her. He stared at all the makeup she was wearing, and then he said, "You wouldn't be trying to deceive people about your age, would you?"
Clifford never understood people's objection to magic, but the older he got, the more opposition grew.
Probably the most famous magician in the world is David Copperfield. He was coming out of a conference in San Diego with a friend of mine, and there was a religious group standing on the footpath. A man was decrying magicians, saying they got their satanic power from Satan. And David Copperfield turned to my friend and said, "What's he on about?" And my friend said, "David, he believes you really do have power and you get it from the devil." And David Copperfield said, "Is he a nutcase?" Now an audience is paying a magician to deceive them. It's a big game of let's pretend. What's a magician? He's an actor playing the part of a wizard. There's a clown on the front and a clown on the back. Can you do
There's
that?
a clown on the front and a clown on the back.
Clown on the front and there's a clown on the back.
Mm-hmm.
All right, would you do that, please?
Do you want me to hold it?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
you do it.
There's a clown on the front.
Yes.
And a clown on the back.
Let's start again.
Clifford did want to make the distinction between what magicians do and the miracles that Jesus performs. So he produced a small segment addressing the issue.
The Lord, Jesus Christ, never used his wonderful power to entertain people. And no one has ever done the things which the Gospel writers tell us that Jesus did. He healed the sick, cured the cripples, gave sight to the blind, and even raised dead people to life again. Jesus was Lord over nature, Lord over the spirit world, Lord over life and death. He treated the world as if he made it and he could do what he liked with it. Every time Jesus used his mighty power to bring healing and life to a person, he showed us he possessed the power of God. His miracles prove that he is who he claims to be and can do everything he promises to do.
All right, now that's the gas. Ready? Nothing matters more than clearly presenting the Word of God. Now, the other things I do, such as storytelling or teaching or the use of humour in communications, you enjoy those things as they happen. But in the long run, it's the written word of God that you're seeking to communicate.
Every Christmas, people around the world celebrate his birth. Usually, it's as they sing in many languages the story of God sending us a Saviour, who is Christ the Lord. That personality is Jesus.
He was a lovely supporter of the ministry, and he always had stories to tell before and after the service. He was always very attentive to what we were doing, very encouraging, and he would read the scriptures here, and people were greatly appreciative. He would occasionally talk to the children, who were very appreciative, but it was his personal role to me, and he was in a home group here, and he looked after people and they loved him. So he joined the family here.
Clifford realised early on in his life that there was no greater way to present the life of Jesus than through stories. An important part of Sing Me a Rainbow was the stories.
He had an idea that we'd go back in Bible times and meet the people who were there, but not the actual people. And we used the finest actors and actresses. Apart from Ron, there were Simon Chilvers, John Gregg, Alistair Duncan, June Salter, Betty Lucas, but they wouldn't play themselves. They would play, it could be the mother-in-law of somebody.
The ruler of Babylon, King Belshazzar, once gave a banquet for 2,000 guests. During this great dinner party, enemy soldiers penetrated the city wall and stormed the palace. Belshazzar's night of celebration turned into a night of terror and a night of disaster. We are crossing to Babylon to talk to one of the king's stewards, Arioch. Arioch, thank you for talking with us.
A pleasure, pleasure. After all that happened here last night, I'm fortunate to be talking with anyone.
Now, how did King Belshazzar spend the last night in his kingdom?
Oh, surrounded by his nobles and leaders, giving his usual feast and lapping up their usual show of praise and appreciation.
Oh, the king enjoyed flattery.
Oh, yes. He loved to hear the zeal of their approval. He wanted everyone to love him as much as he loved himself.
Dan, thank you for speaking to us. Now, tell us, please, what happened to your friend Ben?
Ben's a builder. Hard-working, determined.
He often presented you with a big hurdle to get over in those too, and enjoyed it, of course, immensely to see how you would cope with it. Another time we recorded St. Mark's Gospel.
Jesus left that place and went back to his hometown, followed by his disciples. On the Sabbath, he began to teach in the synagogue. Many people were there, and when they heard him, they were all amazed. Where did he get all this, they asked. What wisdom is this that has been given him? How does he perform miracles? Isn't he the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon?
It was a half hour, and it had to go from beginning to end without a break right through. That was a bit hairy because we arrived there and there was nothing, the studio was bare, so I just sort of went over it in my mind as the studio was put into place. And we had time to do one run through and then we had to tape it. So I relied very heavily on Clifford to keep me calm and relaxed and give me the confidence to feel that I could go through the full half hour without a break.
Clifford's one passion in life was reading the Bible. He wanted to make the message clear and precise.
Joseph went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to the town of Bethlehem in Judea, the birthplace of King David. Joseph went there because he was a descendant of David. He went to register with Mary, who was promised in marriage to him. She was pregnant, and while they were in Bethlehem, the time came for her to have her baby.
She gave birth to her firstborn, wrapped him in cloths, and laid him in a manger. There was no room for them to stay in the inn.
Thousands of people all over the world would flock to churches to hear his seminars on Bible reading. He produced books and audio tapes to teach people the skills. Clifford wanted people to know about Jesus. This was his one aim in life. But what led him to leave his Confucian upbringing and bring about this dramatic change?
I was invited to Waterloo City Mission to entertain as a ventriloquist in a Girls' Brigade concert. There was Sister Rose Payne, who was the deaconess there. She asked me to go to rehearsal as well as the show. After I'd done my act, she took me aside. She said, "That was very good. It was clean and presentable. Are you a Christian?" And I said, "Oh yes, I go to church sometimes." She said, "That's good. Are you a Christian?" And I said, yes, I pray if I'm in trouble." And she said, "I'm glad you do. Are you a Christian?" And I thought, "Yes, I believe the Bible's true." And she said, "I'm pleased about that. Are you a Christian?" So I said, "What do you mean by, are you a Christian?" And she told me that a Christian was someone who had recognized and accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as Saviour and given him their allegiance. I hadn't consciously done that.
After the break, Graham Wade and others share their thoughts and feelings when they heard of Clifford's death.
You've probably seen someone do a trick and then say, "That of course is impossible, but if it were possible, that's what it would look like." Well, I'm going to show you something that is impossible, but this is what it would look like. A matchbox and a rather large needle. Now don't blink, don't take your eyes from the television screen and watch what happens. I'm going to take that large needle and put it in the middle of the matchbox. And it is going to appear to you as if the needle passes through the center of the matchbox. But that is not happening. That does not happen. It's impossible for that to happen. Now, why is it impossible for that to happen? I'll open the matchbox and show you, because inside the matchbox is a block of brass.
On the morning Clifford died, I just stepped out of the shower and my wife came in to tell me that she'd just taken a message, and she said, "Clifford has died." My first reaction was, yeah, well, we knew this was coming. He'd had many more years on his heart bypass surgery than he deserved. And then after a while, perhaps in the next few minutes, it just sunk into me. Clifford has died. And you know how they say that when you die, your life flashes, when you're about to die, your life flashes in front of your eyes? I think with Clifford, it was when he died, his life flashed in front of my eyes.
You know, he used to call me regularly. We used to eat and have dinner from time to time, and he always rung me up and it started with a joke and sometimes concluded with a joke. It was just part of life, and suddenly that was over. It was, I know he's with the Lord. I mean, that's good, great. I mean, as you realise, it's hard to think of how people handle death when there's no hope, when they're not going to be with God. But Cliff's with the Lord, he's happy and he's probably telling God jokes.
I found it very hard to take his funeral because, he had told me a number of times that I would, and I just brushed that off as if, you know, I wouldn't want to. He also told me that I had to get a laugh out of the funeral or he'd come back and haunt me, which was not easy either. But because he was such a father, I found it really hard to do it. And at one point in the service, when I had to go back to the prayer desk and just sit, I just had a good cry. And so I found it a very difficult thing to do.
Now, it's simple enough. All you do is put the rope in your bill, grab on tight and don't let go, right?
Right.
You are a stupid duck, and if you don't behave yourself, you'll go home. Oh.
He was a man that I always remember two emotions. One was one of laughter and one was one of sincerity. And even on sincerity, he used to quote, I think, the great comedian, American comedian George Burns, and he used to say, sincerity, if you can fake that, you've really got it made.
I think I'll even miss the puns. Not that I'm a pun person. And the jokes. I think he was kind and a delightful friend for a very big part of my life, and it's very hard to, you can't replace that.
When you'd sit down and have a meal with him, he would always be sharing with you the latest thing he'd learnt. He was always learning and always teaching. I think the way he learnt was to teach others what he'd been reading.
During 1983, Clifford was awarded the OBE for his service to religious television. Clifford was asked a year before he died 2 questions. What are you thankful for? And what are you looking forward to?
That God took note of me. That he tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, turn round. And when I did, there was a wonderful surprise. What am I looking forward to? Looking forward to eternity with him, with all the love and with all the peace and with all the joy that that's going to bring.
Well, the star is gone, but the accompanists are left behind. Our tears have dried up now, but the loss remains. However, Clifford would have said, for the sake of Jesus, the show must go on. If you'd like a free copy of the message Clifford was keen to share, then please call the number at the end of the show.
Now, the clowns used to use the box and the circle. Having seen that they're empty, one clown used to pretend to be able to do tricks. He would say a word that produced a mysterious effect. The word was cock-a-doodle-quack. And when he did that, a hen's fruit appeared.
A hen's fruit.
Yes. Hold on to that, please. That's all he had to say. Cock-a-doodle-quack and a heg. What do you think of that?
Cock-a-doodle-quack.
Well, if you say that, you know what happens. You get a goog. There you are. Thank you.
But don't ducks say quack? Cock-a-doodle-quack?
Look, if you say cock-a-doodle-quack, that's what... Hold on there, please. No. Ducks say quack-quack. You can't say cock-a-doodle-doo. That just won't do.
Right.
You have to say cock-a-doodle-quack. And when you say cock-a-doodle-quack, well, I've said it twice, so you actually get... Would you hold on to that, please? And to that.
Right.
Thank you.
Cock-a-doodle-quack.
Cock-a-doodle... Yes. You've got the idea now.
All right.
So you don't need a hen. If you want breakfast, what do you say?
Cock-a-doodle-quack.
Cock-a-doodle-quack. Supposing you were making an omelette, what would you say?
We say cock-a-doodle-quack, cock-a-doodle-quack, cock-a-doodle-quack.
Hey, hang on.
Hang on!
I'm hanging on. Would you be careful? This is his breakfast ball.
Why am I holding all
And he
these
said,
eggs?
cock-a-doodle-quack. Would you hold on to that, Thank you. And hold on to that. Thank you. And hold on to that, please.
Hang on a minute. Why did you
I'm
put
hanging
them on the table?
Oh, a good idea. Look, just lift up your chin and put that there.
no.
Now you can hold on to that. Now, if I came to breakfast and I had an omelette, what would you say?
Cock-a-doodle-quack, please.
Cock-a-doodle-quack. You mean you would only give me one egg in my omelette?
Well, you're trying to cut... Okay, cock-a-doodle-quack.
2 eggs in my omelette.
Yep.
You put 3 eggs in your
Aye,
omelette.
cock-a-doodle-quack.
I'm a guest, and I only get the same as you do. 3 eggs.
Cock-a-doodle-quack, then, you think.
Cock-a-doodle-quack. There you are. She's got that under there. You got your arms full. I suggest you put this one under. Really? You didn't want it under your arm? Well,
No.
hold on to it. Thank you.
I'm trying.
Right. There's the box. And if Janine came to breakfast, what would you...
I know. What would you like, Janine? Would you like scrambled eggs?
No, no eggs at all.
No eggs at all. Don't you want us to say cock-a-doodle quack? Because if we say cock-a-doodle quack, could you hold on to that, please? Said it twice? That's great. So there are 2 eggs. Now,
Thank you.
what would you do if the Boy Scout troop came? to
No, no, no.
Dear, oh dear, oh
Have
dear.
cereal.
Have cereal. Some people just have no sense of humour, do they? See you soon.